All right, so I thought I would do this part in a voiceover format. So this is the box as it comes in, pretty, nice box, Aero RC Plus. And this is the writing on the side of it, AeroPlusRC.com, which I went and checked out that site. So it's kind of like a crate box comes in like this. Instead of just being like a one layer box, it's kind of like a two layer box. It's pretty protective. Everything's pretty well protected. There's no damage at all on any of the parts or anything. It's definitely very good packaging. And then behind the two layers of box, it's got styrofoam and tape. It's very well packaged. So this is with that all removed. On top, you got your wing spar there, your prop, and your hardware package, which is literally just a couple of screws. Here is most of the stuff off the top of the box out, the wings, everything's in a separate bag, landing gear all assembled. This is everything out of the box on the table. Everything is individually bagged. Really, gotta say, really well done kit. Not so much as a fingerprint on anything. I mean, it is just phenomenal packaging. I thought it was done really well. So no issues whatsoever with it coming out of the box and assembling. You can see here the control surface items, hardware is all attached. It's metal. It's good quality. The arm is already attached to the servo. I didn't even have to adjust those. Plugged them into my receiver, and they were good to go right where they were. Another shot of surface control connections, metal, well installed. Good quality components to the kit. Absolutely no concerns with any of that. Fit and finish is great. So here's for the rudder. The rudder arm is carbon fiber, and then it has this metal piece on the bottom of it. That's actually a little tiny hex nut on the bottom you have to pull out when you put the wire through there and tighten it up. So you want to put some Loctite on there. Nice craftsmanship, all quality components and stuff. Looks like this is the elevator attachment hardware, all pre-installed, all ready to go. That bolt on the back side is a nylon locking washer, which is good. I really like the componentry for this aircraft. Now here's everything out of the bag and ready to go together. The aircraft itself, I want to say, assembles like truly in 10 to 15 minutes. It is amazingly fast. It's the electronics, getting everything wired up and connected to your receiver of choice that might take a little longer. So this is the kind of weird thing. The connection on the speed control is these things here, which are called, I forget what they're. So these are AS150 connectors. What's weird is the website didn't mention them at all, anything else. Now, I did find them on eBay. These are AS150s, so I could have just ordered this, plugged it to the speed control, and been off and going, but I didn't know to. So here's my little kit. I clipped off the ends. I've got my EC5, and I used my helping hands tool to hold them up. Here's the way I do it. I use the bottom clip on the helping hands to hold the pin connector, and then the top to hold the wire straight, and then solder it in place. Not a fan of soldering. So, and here's the EC5 connector on the end of the speed control, ready to go. That probably took me as long as it did to assemble the airplane. The airplane has these bottom panels that come out. This big panel has 6 screws, small panel has 4. I recommend when you put the kit together, take them off, put them in a plastic bag, set them aside till you're done. This is a top view. This is the receiver in place with servos connected and that stuff ready to go. Now these are with the bottom panel removed. The wires, you can get this wire dangling down is our battery voltage wire, and then so we'll clip to this next shot. So this is everything zip tied all up and the battery connected to voltage. It goes right under the receiver through the bottom subfloor and then comes out near the speed control. And here's a picture from the top of that. You can see here's where the battery voltage goes into the floor, and then it comes out right over here, right next to the receiver, and then goes up the receiver lines. Zip tied up, you can see, and then here's just the way. This is the way I do these battery voltage connectors. I could have done it under the connector if I had thought of it sooner, but I just didn't. And I'll tell you, this process is actually it works really well for me. I cut out a little section of the black cable with my X-Acto knife, and then I just strip down the AC voltage sensor wires, and then here's a picture. I just strip down the wire and strip off the coating in one little section there, and then all I do is just take the AC sensor wire and wrap it around the main battery lead, stripped away section on each side. You can see there's the negative is all wrapped around and ready to go, and then just take a bit of solder and drop it into that little slot there, which is quick and easy. That bit of soldering is super simple. And I've just fallen back to doing this AC sensors this way, or DC sensors this way, because it's actually really quick and easy. And there it is, all done. It took me maybe all of 4 or 5. So that's battery and battery sensor. Let's go to receiver installation. All right, so this aircraft comes with Futaba servos, Futaba S3003s. So one of the things you're going to have to do, because the Futaba servos and the speed controller, I'm using a Spectrum. So it's a Hobby Wing Skywalker 80 amp in this. The receiver ports have the little hash mark on the side there, so these won't plug in. So one of the things I have to do, I use this technique, is I just use an X-Acto knife and just go like this and just put angled slots into the servo lead. Like so. So that you can plug all these servos into the Spectrum. It's not difficult. You just got to go like that. I find that this little last section here, sometimes you miss this. And yeah. So shave this off of here. This should be about good, about ready to go. So I'm gonna have to do this for each of these servo leads. And again, just kind of out of, detail, wanted to show you each of the steps, because there's not many things to do with this. So we've switched out this switched out the connectors that came on it, which are just plugs to plug into something else. I'm sure there's plug leads that you can buy separately that lead to an EC5. That would have been the easy way to go, or whatever kind of connector you want. Dean's are probably XT60 or maybe XT90. But I didn't buy the adapter, so I had to just clip those off and put this EC5 in here. So now we've got now I've got the speed control stripped, and now I can plug it into the throttle channel. So now that it's in the throttle channel, just grab a battery here, grab any old EC5 I got laying around, plug that in. And actually what I'm going to do is I am going to push this bind button before I plug it in. So this has been, and there we go, we've got our flashing light, and now that's ready to be bound, and we'll get it bound up to the profile that I've created, which is actually the Titanium Trainer profile that I already have. But I'll get it bound up and go from there. Alright, so after I got the receiver bound, what we do is just figure out which lead is which. So basically, I could see that this one, where it was and where it comes out in the back, it was going to be the rudder. So I plugged it in on the rudder channel, and sure enough, there it goes. Now I've got the other one plugged into the elevator. And so we'll hit elevator, and sure enough, there it goes. Now for these, this one is going to be the right aileron, and this one's going to be left aileron. So what you going to do is go into your remote and go down to system setup, switch to what we usually call the right side, and then just go to channel assign. Okay, so now we look at channel number 2 aileron is right aileron. So this one needs to get plugged into number 2. And then channel number 6 is going to be AUX 1 is left aileron. So this needs to get plugged into channel 6. And that's how I'm going to know where to connect these in the receiver. Now I already know this is where you have to kind of look at the airplane and figure things out. I'm going to put this receiver right here. So the left aileron is going to go down and plug in, but the right aileron is not going to reach. So what I'm going to do is put an extension on it, run it over here along the wing spar tube, and then down with this one and over to the receiver to plug in. So I'm going to need probably a 6-inch extension on the right aileron one. So right aileron is going on 2 and left aileron is going on 6. All right, so I've got the receiver all installed. Now, I would say that I'm sure the receiver installation, including the telemetry, 25.1 volts. The receiver installation, including the satellite and the wire for the voltage, is probably the longest assembly thing to get the whole kit up and going if you're going to do it. I've done everything but tape down the receiver. What I did was I added this Velcro pack here that has this metal ring on it. Kind of makes it easier to tighten down the battery. I ran the voltage wire through the floor and under and out over here where the speed control wires come through, and then up and tapped it in. Now I could have used the opportunity while I was doing this connector to put it into there, but I just didn't think of it in the order of things, and so I just wound up tapping it in here. You know, I've gotten so used to doing this, I've probably done this about 8 or 9 times now. It works really well. So that's everything all wired up, and I want to say that took me probably hour and a half to get this connector soldered on, to get all these wires run through here. Like I said, I put one extension on this right unit, brought it down here, and plugged it into the receiver. So now everything is all wired up. And actually I really haven't even started assembling the aircraft. I basically did all this first. So now I'm only working with an airframe while I'm doing all that stuff. Go ahead, get these bottom pieces off. I got those wires all cleaned up. This aircraft is basically internally prepared now. I just need to put the wings on, the tail, and the rudder and the prop on it, and it would be ready to go. 5.1 volts. Now, as far as setups on the radio, I've got the dual rates are set at 75. Now, I know that these are the settings that I used when I set it up before. I'll go through these after. I am going to move this aileron up to 55% because I felt like it was a little quirky in the air when I flew it the last time. So aileron, elevator, I'm going to move up to 50%. We can always lower those expos and those things later. So that's everything all wired up. All I got to do, like I said now, is put the wings on, put the tail, the elevator, and the rudder on, and put the prop on. And this thing is pretty much ready to go. That's everything step by step. I want to say if you take your time with this and make everything neat, you can do this probably in an hour and a half, 2 hours, from out of the box to ready for takeoff. All right, so I just want to go over this hardware kit really quick. There's not much to it. This is a Y splitter if your receiver doesn't have enough channels to put the ailerons on their own servo. So if you have a 4-channel receiver, they give you a splitter for that. I'm not going to be using that. These 2 screws right here go in the landing gear. I'd recommend you use some Loctite on them. These 2 screws go in the tail. Again, I would use Loctite on them. These 3 go in the front of the wheel piece, and then this one goes on the back on the rudder, and that's what'll turn this wheel here. Now this doesn't come assembled. This all comes separate. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. So first thing you want to do is drop the wheel on there and then put that, I believe it's a camber lock on there, screw that on, this little set screw in, use a little Loctite because it's all metal on metal, and it's going to come up here. This piece is going to go on next, and then next will come this piece onto here, and then this piece has some teeth on it, slides down into this. You want to get everything oriented about like this. And again, get some Loctite on all your metal-to-metal connections. This will all be made up. Now, these 3 screws will go in this front piece into the frame of the airplane, and this one screw will go back here into this place on the rudder, and that's what will turn this guy back and forth like that. Okay, now this rudder goes on. It's literally your vertical stabilizer, horizontal stabilizer plug into each other. And then they plug into the frame of the airplane together, and then those 2 longer screws hold it on, and that's pretty much it for the tail. Then you just have to connect your control arms to your servos, and that's how it all goes together, and that's the whole hardware kit right there. All right, so I just want to talk about connecting this control surface. So this is one of the things that you're going to have to do. This elevator control comes with the arm installed, which is nice. It's metal. It's a metal arm. The arm has ball joints on both sides, which are nice. There is a hex screw, 1.5 millimeter hex bolt that goes through the ball in the joint. It's a really nice setup. Now, when I hooked up this elevator servo to my elevator channel, you can see where this head fell, you know, where neutral lies on this with my receiver, and it's not what we're looking for. This is turned about 15-20 degrees further to the left than I want it. So I'm going to take this off of here. While I have it off of there, I'm going to trim these tabs off that we're not going to use. So you just pull this head off of here. It's being a little stubborn. There we go. And like I said, while I have it off, I'm going to trim off these parts that I'm not going to use. Yeah, obviously you don't need to do this, but try to trim it out, make it look good. On the floor, hopefully the dog doesn't eat it. Alright, so got our servo arm trimmed out. We'll put it as close to, that's as close as we can get to there. See, that's kind of forward, and this is less left. So that's as close as I can get it to perfectly up and down. Okay, so the servo carries roughly 180 degrees of travel. And it is not a metal. This is going into a nylon head, so we're not going to put Loctite on this. The servo is capable of 180 degrees of travel without any settings, without any control at all. We are going to limit that. We don't want it traveling 90 degrees. You'll get too much elevator, right? And now maybe at some point in time, if we wanted to fly stunt type flying, we can go back and we can put that elevator back in. But for now, we are going to keep this surface level. That looks about good there. I'm going to do... yeah, I'll do the far outside one. Now, I think I'll do the second one down. The second one down the arm. Kind of a little bit of a compromise. Now, I didn't make any adjustment at all on this arm length, and you can see this fin is really quite well aligned. Now, if it was here, then I would back this arm out a couple screws. If it was here, then I would tighten this arm up a couple of screws to get it to where it's at. I actually am not doing any adjustment at all on this arm. This is naturally where it's falling, that's pretty crazy. It's wild that I'm videotaping this and that's how it turned out. But so I'm gonna put this screw in the second hole on this arm, if I can get it to go in. Wearing this camera on my head does not assist in this process. There it goes. So, if you don't have an airplane stand, I would highly encourage you to get one. They're really good for building airplanes. I want to say this thing was like 20 bucks. It is, it's everything you need it to be. You know, when I first got this, I said, geez, man, this thing is kind of cheap or whatever. But it's really, it doesn't matter. It's fine for what you need it for. Now, this bolt that screws on the back side of this screw is a locking bolt. It's got a nylon ring built into it, so we don't need to worry about Loctite on this either. Now, this is a little tiny bit tricky, just the position of this. So let me just show you what I'm going to do here. I'm going to grab this bolt with this pair of pliers, reach up behind, there we go, and set it on there. It's almost there. There we go. Oh, if this was a headlight and not a camera, that would be better. But it's in there. But I'm going to keep the pliers on there so that I can turn. There we go. All right, nice and tight. That's a beautiful. Okay, that's really, I'm super happy with that. Now you can see the bolt through the nut, and it's all lined up there, and you can see nice brass ball on there, ball joint. I don't know the nomenclature on that either. With a spacer here, but good free moving. It's tight on there. I like the way it's set up. If we take a look at this, it's very well lined up. It doesn't need to be reversed, so that's good. That's all set up and good to go. Now, this is what I was talking about for travel. If you notice, so this servo arm is capable of moving 90 degrees, but you'll see that's about half of that. But we're already moving higher than the control surface, quite a bit. So this is actually probably less elevator than I really need. And let's just take a look. Let me just show you this. So for my elevator, oh, that's aileron.
0.1 volts.
For elevator, oh, it's at 95%. Probably going to knock that down a little bit. We'll say 80%. Yeah, that's good there. So you want to have, you know, set a limit. That thing shouldn't be moving the full travel. We're using 80% for elevator, and I'm using 50% expo, right? And so that's just to soften these controls up a little bit. The first flight I took this aircraft on, the one I had before this, I was running 35% XO, and I still felt like it was very quick to move. So I'm slowing down the dual rate, slowing down the exponential to 50% and the dual rate to 80. If we take a look at the elevator, you'll see a big limit there. Elevator, we have moving 74%. Oh, that's rudder. aileron, we only have moving 75% with 55% expo. So those are the settings that I have in my remote, and this is the way I'm hooking the control surfaces up and how it works with this model. I'll do the same thing for the rudder, except the tail wheel is going to go on 3 screws here and then 1 screw here. And then I'll connect the arm exactly the same way I connected this one. I'll have the stick at neutral, and if the control horn is crooked, then I'll take it off and I'll put it straight. Then I'll get the control surface where I want it, and if I need to, I'll screw this in or out. So that's how you hook up these control arms. If you haven't done this before, you want to start by getting this servo horn at 0. And that's not something they can set because receivers are different. As you can hear, the telemetry is working good. When I first fly a model, I get telemetry readouts every 60 seconds just to make sure the batteries are good and the system is working good and everything is going good. And then after I've done a couple flights like that, then I knock it down to an alarm at a certain voltage. And once I get the alarm, I come in and I land. But when I first fly a model, I get the feedback like every 30 or 60 seconds from the battery, just so I can keep an eye on how everything is going with the new model. Also, as you could see, I set kind of conservative rates in my rudder and my elevator and my ailerons because I'm not going to be out flying stunt 3D. I'm just going to try to put the thing around the pattern a bunch, get used to flying it and how it flies. Some of those percentages I'm going to want to raise a little. Some of them I'm going to want to lower a little. Maybe I'll go higher expo on the rudder, but I doubt it. I usually leave the rudder on full. You know, and that's all the break-in stuff. That'll come in the future flights. GoPro, stop recording. All right, so the Titanium Trainer build is complete. I don't really have any particular build notes on this aircraft. If we were to go through the entire hardware set, would be these 2 screws right here that go in the landing gear. Pretty self-explanatory. Use Loctite. These 2 screws that go in the tail. Pretty self-explanatory. The tail screws won't fit up front, and they're the longer ones. 3 screws to screw this in right here. The tail wheel, I would say main assembly. There's 3 screws that go up in there. They're the pointed self-tapping screws. It's nice to have a little poke tool to kind of poke through there. Not necessary, but it's nice to have. 1 more screw here, and then this screw here, and this screw here. And that is the entire hardware kit on the airplane. Now, the elevator connection is this ball link screw arm that was in the video. But the other one is different. The elevator connection, or the rudder connection, is this item that feeds through, and there's a set screw on the bottom. So unfortunately, I don't know the nomenclature here either, but this is a carbon fiber control arm, which is nice. And these parts are all metal, which is nice. And don't forget, it is a set screw. Put some Loctite on there so that doesn't come loose. And that's pretty much it for the assembly. It took, without question, longer to wire it up than it did to build it. You can pop this hatch off here. The wings come off just by taking these 2 nylon screws out, and then the wing assemblies have these servo connections in them. So we'll see how those hold up over time. I just got to take the double-sided tape off the back of this receiver and stick it down, but it will be going right there. I added this Velcro here for the battery, and then I just got to throw a strip underneath it and it'll be ready to go. This plane is ready to fly now. I just got to add that Velcro strip. In fact, I could just use this one for just regular pattern flying. Just that one would be good enough. I went with an EC5 connector here, as you've seen in the earlier video. Nothing really going on in the front. I put the panels back on the bottom, the access panels. The prop was really easy. 2 screws to get the cone off, 1 bolt. and then a spacer over the top. The blade goes on, line it up with the holes, tighten the bolt back up. Nothing really going on there. The aircraft is all ready to go. Now, if I hadn't run these wires the way I did, I probably could have got all this done in an hour. But I'll just show you real quick here. So there's our control surfaces, and that is for our ailerons. 75% of travel is giving us that, and that's just about the height of the wing as it moves. And so that'll be my starting point there. Now you can see this one is just a smidge higher than that, so I'll trim it out when I get it to the field. We've got our elevator back here. So our ailerons are 75% travel, and I've got expo of 55. And you can see I'll just slowly make my way from the center to the right, and that's how they move, which is plenty fast. That's 55% expo and 75% travel. Go back to the elevator. This has got 80% travel and 50% expo. You can see how fast they move. Plenty fast if you ask me. I'll probably take a heat gun and just get some of these bubbles out. You can see our rudder there. What do we got for the rudder? The rudder is only moving 74%. So that is 74% of travel. You can see in the channel there's more to go. I'm just not using it right now. 74% of travel. I'm not using any expo. I don't like expo on the rudder. When I want rudder, I want rudder. So no expo there. And that's it. It's all set up. It's ready to fly. It took me about 3 hours because that's what I went super slow and zip tied every wire and got everything in position. Everything is done except I got to undo the backing on that double-sided tape, and I got to put a strip of Velcro behind that battery. Both of which would be fine if I didn't. The radio is all programmed and ready to go, and that's everything about the build. There's not really much to know. The actual airplane builds in about 15 minutes. It's all the wiring and zip tying and getting all that stuff done. The only thing I needed to add was a 3-inch extension on the right, just because I didn't want it going straight across to over here. I ran it across this bar and down and over, and so I had to add a 3-inch extension right here. And you can see I kind of glued those wires into the corner there to keep them neat and out of the way. And you can see the zip ties, and you know, I kind of made it really neat. So there it is, the AeroPlus RC Titanium Trainer, all built up and ready to fly.